Beer review time. One bottle of beer this time, because one bottle is definitely enough of this stuff. This stuff I'm talking about would be a bottle that a friend gave me, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Yesterday, and I said, well, I've never had that. I wanted to review this, and this would be New Holland Brewery's Dragon's Milk. Dragon's Milk. And barrel bourbon aged Dragon's Milk. 11% alcohol. And having done some research on it, preliminary, I see it gets pretty good grades on beeradvocate.com, a site that I respect for their views, because they got beer snobs from all over the world weighing in on these beers. So I like, it doesn't mean, beeradvocate.com gave this a 90%. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to think it's 90%. It's all a matter of taste, but try to keep it subjective. So this is Dragon's Milk, barrel-aged stout. And let me read the bottle here, see what we've got here. These time-aged eyes. Dragon's Milk Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout. 11% alcohol by volume. There's the bottle. Want close up? Get close up. Catch myself on fire here. How many times have I said that? If I smell smoke, I'll know. Right. I don't think, for whatever it's worth, I'll post some pictures. Okay, this stuff is made by New Holland Brewery, which is located in Holland, Michigan. And they've been around since 1997. And let me see what else I found out about this beer that, honestly, I can tell you this is aged for 3 months, according to the brewery. It spends 3 months aging in bourbon, like oak barrels that they age bourbon in, all right? So, Dragon's Milk, New Holland Brewing Company, Holland, Michigan. Owner since 1997, Brett Vanderkamp. So, it's good they haven't been bought out like a lot of them by the larger, bigger fish in the brewing sea. Profile, 11%, very strong, in fact. IBU's 31, so it should be a fairly dark beer for even a porter. Or actually, IBU's 31, that's the bitterness, international bitterness units. So it's got a lot of hops, a respectable amount of hops in it to try and offset the high alcohol in it. But it's not wicked. 31 isn't really for this. I would have thought it might be a little higher, but it's a respectable amount of hops flavor in it. All right, SRM is 50. That pertains to the color. 50 SRM is a very dark beer. So this stuff should be pretty black with red or purple tones to it. We'll see. All right, for the hops, they use Glacier and Nugget, and this is off their website, New Holland's Brewery's website. They tell me that malts, they use 2-row, which is a 2-row pale ale. The 2-row means there's 6-row barley, there's 2-row barley, and there's even 8-row barley, I think. 2-row barley, it's got 2 rows of the barley seeds going up, and 6 would be 6 rows, but 2-row barley is traditionally used for ales and porters. 6-row barley would be used for your other beers, your lagers, pilsners, and such. So it's got 2-row ale malt, which would be the main, probably like 80% of that. Then they put some Munich malt in it, caramel malt, crystal malt, black malt, chocolate malt, and flake barley. And these are all pretty much standard things that would go into a stout. Now, the thing with this beer is two things. One, it's extremely high alcohol for any type of beer. And two, well, they say they aged it 3 months in the barrel. 3 months in a bourbon, barrels that have been used for bourbon. And New Holland Brewery, they also are New Holland Distillery, and they have put out some very highly regarded, award-winning bourbons. So apparently they got the idea, let's make a stout and age it in these oak barrels that have been permeated with bourbon. So it should give off should do something to the flavor. And from what I've read on their website, they basically designed the stout around the idea to age them 3 months in the bourbon oak barrels that were previously used to age bourbon in. Now 3 months, they say they age this beer in those barrels, and 3 months to age a stout before it's packaged and shipped out, bottled in this case. That's a not incredibly long time. Normally you would age a stout maybe 2 months, maybe less. You could get away with less. 3 months is a good time. I'd say after 3 months, it's brought out most of its character. So I think they really thought this beer out. That's the impression I get. That it's kind of like a designer beer, something different. And the website, New Holland Brewery's website, what I've read by the owner sounds like he really takes this business to heart. So I've never had a stout 11% that I know of, let alone one that's sat in bourbon barrels, oak barrels for 3 months. So I'm going to open this up and we'll see what we got here. Do the pour. Move the candles so I don't have to worry about my shirt catching on fire. I'm learning. So slowly, it seems. Alright, open the bottle up. Wow, smells like raisins. Caramel. Smells like raisins. Definitely a different smell to it. Alright. Let's get the pour in here. This is always awkward, but I'll manage. Not as dark as I thought. It's more of a dark brown. SRM's 50, standard reference. I don't know what the M's is. Standard reference method. So they're calling this 50 here. And this beer is pretty cold. It looks fairly carbonated. I see a lot of bubbles. The head on it looks pretty creamy, fine, like I would expect with the grain bill they used. That's what it looks like in a mug, folks. Alright. Get to the important part, the taste of it. Tasting it. I need some new candles. Alright, so I'm going to tell you what the temperature is on this. A little more light on here. I'm experimenting with my camera settings. It may be a little too light or too dark. I don't know which. Looks like it's dark. I can see it. It looks like it's dark, but I'm going to move on with this. So, the temperature of this beer is they said serve it between 45 and 55 Fahrenheit. That's what the website says. I'm at 51, 49, I had it in my fridge. Threw it in the freezer briefly too. 48. The head's dying out on this pretty quick. And I was very careful cleaning this glass because I don't want, I've said it before, if you leave any grease or soap film in your glass mug, it will kill the head on your beer very fast. So if having a head on your mug of beer is important, make sure there's no grease nor soap film whatsoever on your glass. And I've taken great care to that with this one. Looks like it's 47 degrees, which is right where the brewer recommended that I have this. So there's that. Alrighty then. Well, that's one 12-ounce bottle in this pint mug. And this beer's not cheap. It's like $16 just about for 4 bottles. So it's roughly $4 a bottle at the store. And well, we'll see, huh? Ooh. Smells like raisins. Gingerbread. Raisins and gingerbread. Molasses. I mean, I think with this whole, when I started doing these beer reviews, I like smell. I kind of made fun of that. And the taste, you know, I'm trying to describe a smell and a taste. But really, you should just smell it and just kind of clear your mind and speak what flavors and scents come to mind that are familiar to you, maybe your viewers. So, smelling raisins and gingerbread with like ginger snap cookies, a little bit of molasses and raisins. All right, so taste. Wow. Oh, that hits you in the face like a wet sock. Sock monkey. Ooh. That's got a lot of flavor to it. And kind of you get the alcohol, after taste of the alcohol. This stuff's as strong as wine, you know, on average. I taste like burnt ginger snaps. It's got a burnt taste to it. Carbonation, fizzy feel. Smooth. It is a smooth drink. You definitely get the alcohol on the back of the tongue going down the throat. You taste the bitterness of the alcohol. It's a fairly bitter beer. And I would hope that for being a bitter beer, it would be offset with a little bit of sweetness. I mean, that's what I prefer in a stout, is a bittersweet. I'm getting mostly bitter, and not necessarily hops bitter either. Tastes like something I would have brewed years ago and thrown out. I don't know. It's not bad. It's really not bad. It's quite strong. When I used to brew beer, they all came out too strong. I don't know what, I got overzealous with the malt, probably, in the grain. But I never seemed to be able to brew a beer that wasn't over the top strong. And I wasn't even shooting for a strong beer, but I always got one. And this reminds me of that, because I like to brew stouts and ales. They're actually brewing a stout and an ale, they're the easiest beers to brew. You don't need to lager them. A Pilsner and lagers have to be lagered. And that means it's a controlled process of lagering them. Is a German word, cold storage, where they're brought down to different temperatures over a longer period of time. And you have to finesse them because they're not as strong character as this is, and you know, this hits you over the top with all the stuff that this is a heavy beer and a lot of alcohol. And if you had a lager or a pilsner that was lower alcohol, lighter colored, and not so pronounced, not so much flavor that, you know, like a Budweiser or Miller or, you know, for American beers, if you make mistakes or deviate from recipe, it's easier to tell that because it's such a more delicate, unpronounced flavor profile, as opposed to this thing is a grizzly bear of beers, honestly. Where if you're drinking a light lager, that's a lamb, a baby one. Not this. This thing's a full-blown grizzly bear. This is strong stuff. And when they called this dragon's milk, which I thought was funny, dragon's milk, yeah. I think they've been watching too many Viking shows or something. But they said on their website that dragon's milk has been a long time, for many years, people have called very strong ales dragon's milk. All right, okay. It's got a tradition to it, rather than somebody's Lord of the Rings fantasy beer, you know, or something name. And that's kind of what I thought. Nothing against it at all, but it's kind of, according to them, there's a tradition, dragon's milk. That's been a slang term for a very strong beer, you know, for a long time, they said, and I've never heard it. You know, it's like, I know a lot of beer slang. Like when you hear somebody say, mind your P's and Q's, that's really old, you don't hear it anymore. But mind your P's and Q's, I mean, mind your own business, take care of your own business. That actually goes back to the sailing days when the sailors would be in port bars spending their money on drink and what have you. Women, perhaps some of them, working women. However you want your imagination to go with how they spent their money, the old-time sailors. But when they'd order a glass of beer, they get it in either a pint or a quart, P's and Q's, pints and quarts. And the bartender or the barmaid who's serving them would keep a tally with a chalkboard or a mark on the board. They'd make a mark under that person's name, so when their night was done at the bar, they had to, you know, they tally up all their pints and quarts, P's and Q's, and you know, then they'd pay their bar tab. So mind your P's and Q's comes from mind your pints and quarts, your P's and Q's. In other words, take care of your own business and keep track of what's going on. You know, that's your business, that so they don't rip you off and put two tally marks up there for one. Beer talk. I've never heard dragon's milk used for a strong beer. Not saying it hasn't, but I never heard it. I've heard things like panther piss, slang for bad beer, and some other things, swill. This is neither. This is a very strong beer, so dragon's milk may not be such a bad term for this, name for this. Oh, you can really taste the alcohol. Goes right to you. This is it's like drinking a glass of wine, honestly. I don't know, when I read the reviews on this, there were a lot of people that really, really liked this beer. And I just don't think I'm one of them. Honestly, I don't. I don't. You know, I won't lie to you and say that I've never had this, because I had one last night and I didn't like it at all. And he left me the other bottle. I said, I'm going to do a beer review on it, thinking that maybe, you know, my opinion would change, you know, and which it can, depends how your day's gone and such, what you've had for dinner, and who knows what else. But my opinion is unchanged to this. I won't say it's not a terrible beer at all. It's a very unique beer, a very strong beer. It's like I told my friend last night, Tom, I said, this is the kind of beer, you know, you'd have while you're sitting by a fire and you want something, just you sip the beer for an hour, you know, real slow. That's what it's suited for. Not slamming it. Definitely not for funneling. It does have a nice color to it, I think. Got a very nice dark brown. I thought it would be darker, but it's not. Dragon's milk. Yeah. I'd like to beam up get a time machine and bring about 3 sailors from 1850 here and see what they think of it. Afraid I can't pull that one off. You know, I'd like to have beer that, I take it that Guinness there's the same beer that it's always been. It's the stout I like, Guinness, and there's a few others. Murphy's makes a very good stout. There's a few other really good stouts. McEwen's makes a very good stout. Smith, Samuel Smith. Maybe if I can get my hands on any of those, I'll do a beer review on them. I'd like to do one on London Fuller's Porter, which is, Porter used to be my favorite beer. I just can't find it anymore. It's an ale, actually, dark ale. It tastes rather flat at this point, and that's disappointing. And again, I gotta say, it's the beer, not the glass. I went to great pains to rinse this out with water and wipe the thing clean with a very clean paper towel. So if it's flat on its own accord. And it is pretty well flat, and I don't see any lace, which is also, oops, very disappointing. I'm just not with it today. It's been you know, like we all do, I've had a few things that have kind of been challenging come my way. I'll deal with them, all right. Yeah, there's no lace at all. The beer's flat. So that gives it right there, it puts a cannonball right through it for me. Yeah. It's got an impressive price, $16 for 4 of them. And again, I gotta say, a lot of people that take their beer drinking serious enough to write reviews online gave this particular beer fairly high grades, like an A, if not an A+. Some of them an A+, you know, 90%, and some higher, 100. I wouldn't give it that. Personally, I wouldn't. That was my opinion last night. I'll say, what do I like about this beer, all right? I really like the color a lot. Reddish brown, I like that a lot. I really love the color. Color gets an A+, because I like a reddish brown beer for some reason. What else do I like about it? It does have an interesting flavor profile. It really does. Raisins and burnt ginger snap molasses cookies. That's about all I can say. It smells good too. It's got a good smell. The same thing I described. It smells like a taste, in my opinion. So taste is different. The smell is good. The taste is, you can taste the alcohol in it, very strong. And, oh, that's kind of overpowering. What they should have done with this beer, what I would recommend that they do with this beer, and I've said this for other beers, this beer is flat right now. I don't know why they don't leave the yeast in the beer. Does it really take away that much? It'd be bottle conditioned at that point, and this stuff would set up, you could age this thing 15 years. This bottle, you could put it away 15 years, you know, seal it with wax, and lay it up in your basement and forget about it. And it would still be drinkable if they left the yeast in it. In fact, it would be very interesting aged. But they don't leave the yeast in them. And I don't know why they don't. When I bottled all my beers, I left the yeast in the bottle. And you know, if you're brewing, it won't make the color won't look as good because it'll be cloudy. You know, a cloudy dark beer. But you're going to get vitamin B12 out of it. It's pure B12 brewer's yeast. And it would continue right now. It would have a head. It wouldn't be flat and it would be lacy. So I think the cons of leaving the yeast in it, which would be it would affect the color. And some people might not like yeasty in the beer. It's not as clean, not as crisp or as dry. I don't mind it. Honestly, if there's yeast in here, I'd do that just to stir it up to get the yeast off the bottom because I want to drink the yeast and get the vitamin B12. But if they left the yeast in it, like I would recommend, it would be a remarkable beer. If nothing else, to store up and open it up 5, 10, 15 years, maybe even 20, and see what you've got. It'd still be good. The yeast would keep it good in the bottle, and it would continue to carbonate. And you can bet that if they did that right now, I'd still have a creamy, really velvety, smooth, creamy head on this beer right now, and a lot of lace going around the mug if they left the yeast in the bottle. That, and what else would I say to improve this? How dare I? I'm a beer snob. That's how I dare to just challenge something like dragon's milk. Leave the yeast in it. If I would lower the alcohol, 11% is pretty high, but you know, if it's what they're shooting for, I respect that. If you're going to leave it at 11%, I'd leave it alone, honestly. I'm just let down that it's completely flat right now, and there is, as you can see, zero lace in the glass. So do a better job carbonating it. Maybe put some wheat malt in it, which would help with the head retention. But if you don't want to put wheat malt in this, then I honestly would like to see them just leave the yeast in. And that's all I have to say for this beer. Would I buy it again? No. No, I won't. They've got Dragon Milk White. Dragon's Milk White, which is $4 cheaper for some reason. So I'll do a beer review on Dragon's Milk White. And I looked up, there's no milk in this. In any of their beers, there's no milk. Not at all. It's just a name. Oh God, the things I do for you. My God. Sorry. Take care. God bless. That's the end of this beer review. Dragon's milk. Yeah.